So I get all the kind of style inspiration is what my granddad would wear. So I only use menswear items that I look at it and I'm like, will my granddad wear this? Yes, he will. And then I would buy it. And then I would combine it with his old clothing. He no longer wears, he lost a lot of weight because he had cancer. So a lot of his kind of clothes that are too big for him is the kind of clothes that I work with. And then what I do is I would lay my pieces out on the floor. I would take pictures of them and I would put them onto Photoshop and I would do collages. So I'll put my little granddad figure in the background and then I will collage them together. And the reason why I do this is I'm able to experiment digitally without cutting into garments, and I'm making sure there's no waste in that kind of process in doing that way.
Welcome to Mindful Businesses, presented by Sarani, and I'm your host, Vidya Iyer. In our podcast, we bring to you brands which are mindful in their practices and processes. A mindful business adopts and employs sustainable social, economic, and environmental practices. Today we have with us Jess Grach, founder of the Grandad company, Unisex circular street clothing brand. She joins us from London, UK. Welcome, Jess.
Hi.
It's so great to have you on my podcast.
It's great to be here.
Approximately how many pieces of clothing are produced every year, say worldwide or even UK? Just how many pieces of clothing are produced worldwide?
I'm not sure on the amount of clothing used, but I know that in terms of what goes into landfill, the percentage is 67% in the first year.
The first year the clothes is made. We're not even talking about few seasons old. I don't like this jacket anymore. I'm going to give it away. It is within the first year.
It's more towards the end of the year, obviously. I think it's just these kind of fast fashion brands, especially kind of like the boohoo, the kind of misguided items, which are really cheap to buy. I think if consumers buy into clothing that are that cheap, they don't have any value. So it's thrown away because of that reason. It's kind of worn once.
In a company like Zara, how often do they change their styles? Like every time you go, every 2 to 3 months?
Zara is one of the most fast-paced in kind of turning stock round. Every 2 weeks, the whole store changes with new stock.
So as a consumer, I'm wandering through the malls of either UK or North America or Asia, and I see a new color, a new dress, and I am pulled into the store to buy these clothings, which I absolutely don't need. It creates so much of a society which is completely consumption-based.
Exactly. I think if there's new stock every 2 weeks, and it makes you kind of, when you go into the store, if you like something, you kind of got to buy it straight away before it disappears forever. So I think that's what kind of sucks consumers in, because after 2 weeks that stock's gone from the stores. I know that online lasts a bit longer, but Zara is one of those really popular high street brands that do go out of stock really quickly.
Most people then have their closets filled up. They want to give up their clothes, either because it doesn't fit them anymore or they don't like the articles. These are the people who have kept their clothing for more than a year, right? And where do normally people give away their clothes? In the US, it's the Salvation Army, the Goodwill, and they have these big dumpsters and parking lots where you can donate your clothing.
Yeah, so a lot of people turn up to local charity shops, but the thing is with the truth about charity shops is for secondhand garments that don't sell, it's normally shipped to another country and it's used as a kind of a storage place. They are receiving so much clothes on a daily basis that they no longer need. They've got too much, and we are basically using third world countries as a dumping grounds for these clothing as kind of be like, oh, they need this clothing, but actually it's just they've got too much and now we're using it as a dumping site basically. So that's the thing with charity shops, they're getting so many donations, a lot of it doesn't sell, they're shipping it. So a charity shop isn't actually the best way to kind of donate your clothes. It's better to give it to companies like me who upcycle it and give it a new life and refresh the item, or to actually resell it on a platform like Depop for people who actually want to buy the clothing and it's going to a home where people are going to cherish the item rather than end up dumping it in another country later on down the line.
And the side effect of this is that it's killing the garment industry, the textile industries in these countries where we are dumping our stuff, either because we get a tax benefit. And sometimes on the streets of Africa, you find down-filled jackets, which is ridiculous. There is no need to ship your heavy jackets to Africa. The carbon footprint of it going over is another story in itself. Yeah, so with all good intentions, we are actually causing more harm than more good. I don't know if you've heard of this Facebook page. It's called Buy Nothing. It's very popular in America, where each neighborhood has a Facebook group on Buy Nothing, and you just post your things that you don't need. And people who want it, take it. And I think that is such a unique and absolutely zero carbon footprint way to upcycle whatever you need besides even clothing. Do you have that in the UK?
Not really. I mean, the Facebook marketplace has gotten really big where you could post locally. So this chair, for example, that I've got now, I went to go and collect it. I buy everything kind of secondhand and locally. So you could look for, in your area, people advertise things that they're selling and you could shop for it. So me and my sister does it a lot. When she moved into her flat, she got all like secondhand furniture that she just picked up. So there is these kind of platforms about, but I haven't heard of Buy Nothing, which is a really cool name.
Yeah. And basically you give it for free.
Oh, that's really cool. I wonder if they do it in the UK. I'll definitely look into that.
With the brands like H&M, Zara, Primark, the number of pieces of clothing that we own right now is probably far more than what your granddad had, right?
Oh, definitely. My granddad has a whole different kind of mindset when it comes to clothing. He's very precious with his pieces. He's had his pieces for years and years. He protects them. He has OCD, so he's very particular with his clothes. No one could touch it. They're kept in the most pristine condition and they've survived over years and years, and no one else is allowed to wear it. If he lets me wear it, he has to come out with me. He's really funny because he doesn't like things getting dirty, and he just loves all his clothes. He's had them for years and years. He's never been one to buy into this kind of fast fashion in kind of any item within fashion. He grew up in a big family of 10 siblings. Everything was shared. They used to make their own toys, and that upbringing has really shaped the way he shops and the way he treats things throughout his life. He cherishes things for what he has. He makes whatever he can make. And when he buys for life. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I built my brand to be on. And that's how I want my customers to treat my clothing. The process of designing, making the clothes from start to finish, I do it with the highest quality that I could possibly do. And to think that if a customer threw away my garment and I saw it in a charity shop would really upset my feelings. These are all the clothing has got so much feeling towards me, and that's kind of why I went for a kind of higher price point brand, because someone's spending a higher price point and they're going to appreciate your clothing more, and they're going to see it a thing that they won't throw away because they invested the money in buying that item.
And more thought went into purchasing that item too, right?
Yeah.
Did your granddad pay a lot for these clothing?
Yeah, he did. Ranges. He's got things from markets, which was cheaper. He's invested in more expensive stuff. So it's not always about the price point. He just goes for clothing that he looks at the quality and the kind of comfort. He knows a bit about sewing from his mum sewing a lot of clothing, so he knows what to look out for in quality when it comes purchasing items. So that's something that is like at the top priority for him.
If you look at vintage furniture, that would tell you the size of the closet, or the vintage wardrobe would tell you the number of clothing a family owns.
Yeah.
We have now, at least in the US, we have walk-in closets, which are the size of a small London apartment. And, it just grows and grows and grows. And often it probably takes a whole year to repeat a dress for many, many people out there. My mom always told me, buy something which is more expensive and latest, and you will be able to use it for more seasons to come than if you buy it on a discount off the discount rack. You'll wear it for 2 or 3 times. It will be out of fashion and you'll be stuck with that, just crowding our closets and creating a lot of damage to the environment and our society.
Yeah, I think the price point tells you a lot about that item. For example, it tells you about the quality, also tells you about down the line who was making it and profit. So for example, there's a lot of styles around items around that cost £5. And if you think of that £5, that company is making at least a 10% profit from that item. Then you've got the freight for it to be shipped. You've got the person making it. You've got the material, and everyone in that chain is making a profit. So if everyone's making a profit, that item must have cost like 10p to make.
True.
So there's obviously, it's probably not came from a good factory, and the quality is not going to be made to last. You'll probably put it in the wash, the stitching is going to come undone because it hasn't been overlocked, it's only been stitched together, and it will shrink. The fabric is not good quality. So I think the price point of the item really tells you about kind of the chain and how sustainable that chain is, and also the quality and whether that item is going to last.
To talk about how you stumbled upon this business idea.
I did a degree in fashion design and technology. The technology side was learning kind of 3D sewing systems where you could stitch on a virtual model. And that was kind of what I specialized in terms of saving kind of your trial garments, basically. So you're not wasting materials. I left university and I worked in industry. And to be honest, I absolutely hated it. I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, this is so unsustainable, so uncreative. And I kind of just was contemplating like what I'm doing. I decided to continue working in fashion and tried to go into different areas of the business. And I decided if I want to do a company with my ethics and my morals, the only way to do that is to run my own company. It kind of came about because I offered to do a fashion show in Edinburgh with Are Sustainable, which is a company that promotes sustainable designers. Mm-hmm. I developed a collection around my granddad, and then after the fashion show was postponed due to COVID, I had all this stock, and then I just decided actually like I want to take the leap and develop my own brand. So I've basically worked on everything, the logo, the website, the making. I've literally done everything for this brand since.
It's your baby.
I think as well, because it's inspired by my granddad, it's got such a personal connection attached to it. So it makes it even more like meaningful.
Did you spend a lot of time with your granddad?
Yeah, I'm probably closer to my granddad than my actual dad. I look up to my granddad more. He's just been a very consistent role model in my life. He's just, every decision, all my advice, everything comes from my granddad. He's just such an inspiration for what I think a male figure in my life should be. He's just a really nice, moral person who just looks at the world in such a beautiful way. And he's just someone I've always wanted to kind of impress, that one person. I think the rest of my family is so much like easily impressed by anything I do, but my granddad's just one step harder to kind of impressing him, which has always been kind of pushed me in my career because he's a bit harder to impress. So in that way, he's made me progress more in my career and me as a person because of his kind of standards.
If we come back to your work in the fashion industry, what appalled you the most? The fact that the lack of design, lack of creativity, like both of us, we can see each other now.
Yeah.
We are both wearing black t-shirts.
Yeah.
I find it very difficult to find clothing which is creative, which is colorful. And even if I do, I don't want to be the only one wearing a bright pink dress to an event.
Yeah, I think in terms of the creativity side in the industry, I used to stay after work and do loads of like new designs, even look at them. They just wanted me to copy exactly an image they was given. So I was not even allowed to change the pleats or add a different type of sleeve. It had to be exactly a copy. And for someone who's pushed their creativity their whole life and gone through, a degree that's all about pushing the boundaries and experimentation, it was a very hard pill to kind of digest. In terms of me expressing myself, I would say that the high street hasn't been the easiest way. Also, I don't want to buy something that a million people are going to buy. Like you'll walk in, someone's wearing the same top as you, I make most of my clothes and I get most of my clothes secondhand. But I think lockdown fashion has stayed really core and basic at the moment. It has kind of dulled down my fashions because I don't see anyone during the day.
So talk about how you go about your whole process of creating a piece of clothing. Start from where you get the clothing, your creative inspiration. Does it come from the customer or does it come from within you or a combination?
So in terms of my process, I source my vintage clothing from kilo sales, eBay sometimes Depop, and my granddad's old clothing. In terms of how I go about within where my vintage pieces come from.
You mentioned Depop. What is Depop?
Depop. Do you not have Depop? Do you have Depop in the US?
No, we don't.
Oh, Depop is a very popular app where you resell your clothing on. You give the unwanted clothing in your wardrobe, you take pictures of, and you sell them online. A lot of massive vintage companies sell on that marketplace. It's very popular. It's basically like an eBay, but for fashion, specifically in an app form. Mm-hmm. So I get all the kind of style inspiration is what my granddad would wear. So I only use menswear items that I look at and I'm like, will my granddad wear this? Yes, he will. And then I would buy it. And then I would combine it with his old clothing. He no longer wears, he lost a lot of weight because he had cancer. So a lot of his kind of clothes that are too big for him is the kind of clothes that I work with. And then what I do is I would lay my pieces out on the floor. I would take pictures of them and I would put them onto Photoshop and I would do collages. So I'll put my little granddad figure in the background and then I will collage them together. And the reason why I do this is I'm able to experiment digitally without cutting into garments, and I'm making sure there's no waste in that kind of process in doing that way. Also because I ensure that I have the perfect combination that I want. So sometimes you can have an idea and then you run with it and it's too late to go back. With this way, I get to have different variations and choose the best outcome I want. And then I just basically combine them together in the way that I collaged, and that's kind of my process.
And where does a customer fit in it? Do you make this and then send a digital image to the customer, or do you finish the product and then put it on the web?
I finish the products and then put it on the web. As a product sells, I'll make a new one to replace it. And it's always got that amount of stock. So that's how I go about it. So I have a scheme where people can send me unwanted clothes that they have in their wardrobe, and then I will basically upcycle it for them and send it back to them. So they only pay for my time. So I've had someone send me a puffer jacket, want to have it in for so it was a North Face puffer jacket, which they wanted to turn it into a bucket hat. They sent me the jacket and I sent them back the bucket hat, and I only paid for my time. I've had like a lot of custom requests where people have like damaged items. I've had like last week I received a dog's bed where it was really damaged. So I used upcycled materials to make sure that instead of that dog bed going in the bin, it was given a new life and it could stay in the family longer. So I work in two ways: receiving donation, like upcycling requests and sending it back to the customer, or within my online store. The only thing that makes the brand hard to grow is the fact that there's only one design available of each design. Because they're vintage items, I could only ever make it once. I can never find them clothing again. So I have items that are really popular and they go out of stock, and sometimes I'm able to do a similar design for another customer. It will never be completely the same, which makes it a limited edition brand, which is the unique selling point. But it's also a hard model to scale up.
Are you the only person who does the sewing right now?
Yeah.
So that is another barrier for your growth too, till you scale up. And
I think if the brand was to really grow, what I would do is have a sewing team helps me to put all the pieces together, and I'll manage the design and collaging the designs, and then people could help me with the unpicking and the sewing. But yeah, every aspect just takes so much time. Like for my tags, I make instead of using like string or whatever, I actually make them out of scraps, so there's no waste. That takes time to do. Even packaging up the item and going to the post office, a lot of it is time consuming, but it's definitely worth it.
You said that your clothing is upcycled. How is that different than a sustainable brand?
So a sustainable brand is using kind of materials that are sustainably made. That could be anything from being organic or using kind of materials kind of genetically made, using kind of food waste, so like banana leaves, mushrooms, and the list goes on. And they are creating new products, and they're creating it more like a small batch, so they could have 50 pieces of one design. And upcycling is kind of using the waste. So I read a quote in a book, and it's from the Sustainable Handbook, and it said the most sustainable you could be is using the waste out there. By using kind of, even you're using sustainable materials, yes, it's better for the planet, but you're still not fixing the problem about the waste we have. We have so much waste out there. And in my opinion, it's the most sustainable you could be. The process is completely different. You have to reconstruct before you construct. It's more of a costly and timely process. It's not scalable. There's only one available, but a sustainable brand is kind of easier to grow, easier to market. You're able to gift items in order for your brand to grow, whereas I can't gift items because that's my one design gone. So it's harder to grow. So the kind of difference is using the waste, and instead of creating more waste. Even though sustainable is more environmentally conscious, it could still end up being waste in 10 years.
And all your clothing, your tagline said streetwear. What is streetwear?
Basically, streetwear is just like a kind of a subculture of clothing, cool clothing that you wear on the street. And that's kind of the easiest way to describe it. So that just comes from this like vintage streetwear style. So it's more unisex, baggy. A lot of known brands within streetwear like Carhartt, Dickies, down the skater trend within it. So it's using them known streetwear labels and that streetwear aesthetic, kind of layering, baggy styling. Yeah, so that's why I call it a streetwear brand.
Was it important that it be unisex? Why unisex?
I wanted my kind of clothing to be available to all, in the point of it being sustainable, that I'm not closing the market for it. It is available to anyone who wants it. And I just think there's not a lot of unisex brands out there. And I think the interesting thing about unisex is like you can never turn female clothes to be unisex, but you can turn menswear to be unisex, which I found really interesting. For example, if I was to buy a jeans that would fit a guy and he would put it on, he'd be really confused by the way it's fastened. Because everything goes the other way, and because of how guys are used to one way, they just wouldn't know how to take off that piece of trousers. It's really funny because I did a test with my boyfriend. I was like, wear these jeans and tell me, and he couldn't figure it out because it was the other way and it was really weird. So like girls don't really notice them kind of like fastening details. They just, it's just easy. They don't notice about the side. So I find that quite a funny story about unisex fashion.
So you basically take the male's clothing and make it unisex, but all the fasteners are like it was a man, because you've noticed that it's easier for the women to adapt to the clothing being fastened the opposite way.
Yeah, girls won't notice. I mean, I wear a mixture of like female, men's clothing, and I just don't notice. But even like a shirt, if a guy was to wear a kind of woman's baggy shirt, they wouldn't be able to undo the buttons because they're not used to it being that way. I think girls are just more versatile anyway. They just don't get the concept of something changing. They're like, they just can't do it the other way.
Thankfully, we have the right genes to be able to. So where do you see your company in 3 years? Post-COVID?
Well, I'm hoping to do kind of like a fashion show after this is going on. I know that in the pipeline, I'm going to be doing a 3D fashion show that's being developed, which is going to be really excited.
What is a 3D fashion show?
In terms of the kind of degree I got in terms of stitching on a virtual model, the kind of system has moved where you have a 3D model wearing your clothes, and the model is able to walk up and down like a catwalk, and you can see how the clothes kind of react to movement. It's really cool.
So this is digital?
Digital, yeah. So you'll see it kind of like on a computer screen as a video.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I hadn't heard about that at all.
Yeah, so it's growing in the industry. At the moment, everyone seems to be using 3D software to kind of limit the trial garments, but the software is moving on to be able to walk. You could rotate the mode, so you can see it a bird's eye view, the back, side. It's really cool. You putting like your fabric quality in there, and it's able to like change to a denim, then to a polyester, then to a knit. It's got like a virtual library. It's this really cool system. But yeah, to answer your question, where I see myself in 3 years, I'm hoping to do a fashion show, to probably by the end of the 3rd year to have a studio and more employees to help me out. My workshop is in Grandad built me, so it's quite a big shed, but it's not ideal for London weather because it's either too hot in there or it's too cold in there. That would be the goal, to kind of have some help, have a place, a studio and a fashion show.
On that inspirational note, Jess, thank you so much for coming on Mindful Businesses.
Thank you.
You're listening to Mindful Businesses with Vidya Iyer. If you're a creator of a mindful brand or would like to recommend a mindful brand to be featured on our show, send an email to info@mindfulbusinessespodcast.com. Subscribe and listen to us on your favorite podcast listening app. Remember to rate and review us. To learn more about this and our other episodes, check out our website, mindfulbusinessespodcast.com. If you learned a thing or two on this episode, share it with one friend. This is Vidya Iyer with Mindful Businesses.